next guest is author Richard Grant, very well known to many folks in this audience. Yeah. Not only literarily for Dispatches from Pluto, his great book about the Mississippi Delta a few years ago, then The Most Southern Place on Earth a few years after that. This new one is called A Race to the Bottom of Crazy, Dispatches from Arizona. Memoir, some research, a lot of reporting. He goes to a lot of the crazy hot spots there in Arizona, and there are many. And some of the beautiful scenery there. You've got this great phrase that deserts that have skies that look like islands in the sky. That is such a great, we all know what a great writer he is. Y'all please welcome Richard Grant. I mean, I'm reading along and you and your wife are picking out tile from your new bathroom, and I'm thinking, how am I reading this? And it's because you're such a great writer. And then the very next page, they're torturing people in the Sierra Madres Mountains. And I say, there we go, now we're back. But in your younger days, you sought out dangerous assignments.
Yeah, I was kind of a wild, fairly unhinged young man. I was a freelance reporter, and I would go to Africa and Haiti and Mexico, and was willing to take risks to get stories that couldn't be got otherwise.
And you really did the nomads, and you're covering banditos in Mexico, and some of those interactions dicey, to say the least.
Yeah, the thing about taking risks, I discovered, is that nothing happens until it happens. There's no gradual escalation of danger. And I thought things were going well for me in the Sierra Madre Mountains of Mexico until I got hunted through the woods at night by hillbillies on cocaine, Mexican hillbillies. Yeah. It was a very, very frightening night. I kind of put it in the book because, now I'm kind of like the family man trying to avoid risks, stay alive for my daughter.
Right.
It's my number one job in life.
Yeah.
So I was kind of reflecting back on my younger self in this book and trying to figure out, who was that guy?
Yeah, you do have that story in this book, Race to the Bottom of Crazy, where you're hanging out with these guys earlier on in the evening, and then you sort of get away from them and you drive up to your campsite, knowing full well they're going to come later in the night to either rob you or kill you or both. So you leave your car there and then you go and hide and watch, and sure enough.
Yeah, I was running and hiding most of that night.
It
still makes me.
I know, I'm getting scared right now. I'm thinking, how did you hide from the, and so they go looking for you, then they look for you a second time, they bring another couple of pals out, they bring flashlights, and obviously they didn't find you. That's very scary.
Yeah, that was the most scary experience I've ever had.
Yeah. So, and all of this, again, is in the book. You sort of go back and forth reflecting on some of these things, and then you bring us up to date again. Y'all are redoing the bathroom, so your wife is all interested in the tile. And just a minute ago, you're being chased, by Mexican banditos. So you've kind of given up looking for dangerous society.
I've started avoiding it whenever possible.
Still writing.
I mean, I'm a dad now. I got a 9-year-old daughter. I can't be throwing my life away foolishly. Not only did she lose a father, but she would think her lost father was an idiot for taking a risk.
That's no legacy. Yeah, Isabel, your daughter, is mentioned quite frequently in the book, and we really feel for her when you and your wife tell her that y'all are going to leave Mississippi and move to Arizona, and even in the book you say she still tells people she's from Mississippi.
Yeah, she still tells people. She was born in Jackson, and she also got adopted by a family. When we lived in the Delta, we became very close with the Thompson family who lived down the road, and Kathy Thompson is Isabel's grandmother.
Right.
And so when we moved to Arizona, where my wife is from, we had to kind of like break them up, but the bond is still there. Kathy flies out to visit us, and we were in Pluto last summer, so
oh wow, yeah,
they're still very much grandmother and granddaughter.
So you were born in London, and your wife is from Arizona, and your daughter was raised in Mississippi. I'm just wondering, what is her accent like? How does she?
I remember when she was younger, it was very confused. I remember
right.
One time she's like, "Daddy," I'm fitting to take a bath.
Fitting it. Yeah, a little confused.
A little confused, but she straightened out. She straightened it out now. She sounds like an American kid.
All right, these we think we're pretty crazy here in Mississippi, but the stuff you write about out there in Arizona, they may have us beat. There's some pretty eccentric characters out there. For example, on their state seal, George Warren. Tell us about George.
On the Arizona state seal, there's a picture of this kind of mining prospector. His name was George Warren. And he swindled his way into 1/6 of the richest copper mine in Arizona. And then, drinking one day, he bet his entire share of the mine to another guy that he could outrun a man on a horse. It didn't go well for George. He lost the bet, and he spent the rest of his life in alcoholic penury. And at one point, he sold himself into peonage in Mexico, and he got bought out of that, and he wound up sweeping up saloons in exchange for a shot of rock gut whiskey. And then the people who were designing the state seal, someone had taken a picture of him, and they saw this picture of this prospector on the wall of a bank in Bisbee, Arizona. They're like, that's our man for the state seal.
Tried to outrun a horse. And this was it a gold mine that he bet?
Copper mine.
The copper mine. It ended up being like one of the world's biggest. Or something.
One of the world's richest copper mines. Yeah, he would have been a millionaire if he hadn't become convinced he could outrun a man on a horse.
Drinking some of that Scottish whiskey that Connor was talking about. Stephen Gore, interesting fellow from the Biological Resource Center.
Yeah, there's this kind of unlicensed kind of human cadaver industry in Arizona where people think they're donating the bodies of their loved ones for medical research. But this guy, he was totally unscrupulous. He just sold the bodies to the military for blast testing experiments. But he was also like sewing mismatched heads on. He sewed like a man's head onto a woman's body. Like the FBI agents that raided that place were apparently traumatized. There was buckets full of penises and limbless torsos.
So where you want to go for dinner after this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly glad we brought George. David Grunman.
He's another Arizona anti-hero. He was a kind of short-order cook and a drug dealer that had done some time for trying to rip off his own clients. And he went out into the desert where the giant saguaro cactuses grow. And they're basically columns of water. They weigh an ungodly amount. And he took a shotgun and he started blasting away at this saguaro cactus, and it toppled over and simultaneously impaled and crushed him to death. And they sing songs about that guy.
Instant karma. Help me with the pronunciation of this Indian tribe we talked about earlier. The Chiricahuas?
Chiricahua Apaches. This was Geronimo and Cochise, their people. I became interested in them actually for my first book, which was called American Nomads, and I read a lot about them. And one of the the U.S. Army spent a long time trying and failing to catch them just because they could cover ground. They could run 100 miles a day and keep it up day after day, and it was faster than the cavalry could get through that country on a horse. And they were experts at hiding, and finally they figured out that they could hire Apaches that weren't Chiricahuas as scouts, and that's how they finally got Geronimo to surrender. Yeah,
you say in the book they could run, like you say, hours all day, 100 miles, and they had elderly and children with them still.
Yeah.
These guys almost sound like they could outrun horses. They could certainly move.
Well, that was the thing about George Warren. I should have mentioned this, that as a boy he was kidnapped by the Apaches. And the miners bought him for 2 sacks of sugar, but he had seen an Apache outrun a horse. over a short distance.
And he said, hey, I think I can do that.
Yeah,
Hold my beer.
very much so.
Well, you've certainly made me admire the state of Arizona and Arizonians, I guess I would say. Very quickly, though, we don't want to get too far into in fact, we don't want to get into it at all, the January 6th, but we all remember the guy with the headset, the headdress.
The face of the January 6th, yeah, Jacob Chansley had the bison horn headdress. And
What state was he from, ladies and gentlemen? Arizona! Wasn't Mississippi.
No, it was not. It was the great state of Arizona.
Yeah.
And he was trying to make it as an actor. He was like living with his mother, like following the strict vegan diet. And he was I thought he was the kind of only in Arizona guy. He was always at protests and demonstrations. And then lo and behold, he turns into the face of the January 6th insurrection. I was like, there's another win for Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to make it as a voice actor and living with his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. My kind of guy.
He just got out of prison and he ran for office.
Oh, after the January 6th, he went to prison. Now he's out.
Now he's out. Now he wants to be a politician.
Well, of course. I mean,
See the opportunities that are available to you.
I mean, the fundraising does itself. Well, this book is just chock full of page after page. We just haven't even started on all the wonderful characters that you've unearthed, because you are quite the reporter and a fine writer. Again, you can make remodeling your bathroom. And how is your bathroom, by the way?
My bathroom's great, Jim.
Okay. Because I really worried about the tiles, because y'all had a thing going, you and your wife, about these tiles, and finally you bailed on the tiles.
Yeah, I opted out of bathroom decision making completely.
Well, you make it all interesting, and like all of your books, it is a fun read, and so interesting and funny in places, scary in places when you're hiding from the banditos, but highly recommended. Good luck with it. Thanks for being here one more time, y'all, for Richard Grant. A Race to the Bottom of Crazy. Dispatches from Arizona by Richard Grant. Really a fun book. And Richard will hang out with us after the show with the good folks at Square Books, and we'll visit some more. And he will sign your copy and your aunt and uncle's copy and all these other folks you want to get one for. You may even want to hand the book down. And speaking